Day 1. They told Marlene it was a weather surveillance post. 3 months, the woman at Central had said, slapping the thick file on the desk. Food, heat, security systems, full automation. All you do is monitor the ridge. Sit, watch, log anomalies. You'll be back home before the trees lose their leaves. He hadn't even asked what kind of anomalies. He just needed the credits. Day 3. Ridge Marrow stood at the edge of the known world, a sheer wall of stone that dropped into endless mist. Old myths called it the world's rib, an ancient fault line where, long ago, the continent cracked and bled into fog. Nothing was said about what lay beneath it. The fog had never lifted, not in recorded history. The station was built right on the precipice, a spindly observation tower of metal and frost-resistant glass, rising 4 stories above the edge. The entire place hummed faintly, powered by turbines that vanished into the dense, low cloud. Marlene had been warned. You are not to descend the ridge, no matter what you see, no matter what you hear. It was the only thing they emphasized during orientation. Day 5. He heard it for the first time. Not quite a sound, more a pressure, like distant thunder being held under glass. It came in pulses, irregular, like a breathing thing. The ridge seemed to vibrate faintly with it. He logged it. No reply from Central. The uplink worked only one way. He sent reports. They didn't respond. Day 8. Movement in the mist. He nearly missed it. A flicker at the edge of the camera feed. He rewound the footage, zoomed in. A shape, just for a moment, crawling up the rock face. Thin, angular, pale skin stretched like wax over a starved frame, arms too long. No face. He replayed it again and again, but the image degraded into static each time. He logged it as seismic echo interference. But he knew that wasn't true. Day 10. More appeared. They didn't move like animals. They moved like they remembered being human. But the memory had soured somehow. One would climb to the edge, stand on spindly legs, and stare toward the tower. No eyes, no mouth, just a vaguely humanoid shape, breathing heavily like wet cloth being wrung out. Then it would retreat back into the mist. Another would appear hours later. Climb, stare, leave, over and over, like they were rehearsing. Day 13, they stopped leaving. 6 of them crouched on the ridge, 20 meters from the base of the tower. Still, unmoving, staring. Marlin hadn't slept in 34 hours. He tried the emergency line. Static. Day 15. The alarm woke him at 3:06. Breach proximity threshold, 10 meters. He looked at the monitor. One of the creatures had crawled halfway up the tower's foundation. It moved slowly, deliberately, as if savoring each stretch of its limbs. He hit the siren trigger. The exterior lights flared on, flooding the ridge in blue-white glow. The creature stopped and smiled. It didn't have a mouth, but the skin split open in a mockery of one, just enough to show teeth. Tiny, glass-like fragments arranged in layers. Then it let go and fell soundlessly back into the fog. Day 17. He found the hatch open. The outer door, which should have been sealed with biometric locks, was slightly ajar. Frost clung to the edges. Nothing was missing, but the air smelled wrong, like copper and stagnant water. He resealed it. He locked the inner blast door, and he slept that night with the surveillance feed playing on a loop above his bed. Day 19. He found a note, a torn scrap of cloth nailed to the observation deck railing with a human finger. The nail still attached, blood frozen at the cut. The cloth had writing burned into it, not ink, but heat seared. You stayed too long. Marlin's hands shook as he tore it down. He didn't log the event. He didn't want Central to know he had read it 3 times before removing it. Day 21. Something spoke through the vent. At first, it was just air moving strangely, a rhythmic flutter. Then syllables began to form, shallow and halting. You are next. Shift. We were watchers. 2. He sealed the vent with steel tape and padded the wall with furniture. But at night, he could hear breathing from inside the walls. Day 24. The creatures had built something. A kind of altar on the ridge, shaped from stacked stone and bone, arranged in a spiral that pointed upward toward the tower. He watched them crawl into it, one by one, and not come back out. Until just one remained, taller than the rest, skin darker, its back lined with tiny hands, twitching. It stepped forward and stood at the base of the tower. And it spoke. Not with words, but with sound. A deep, droning frequency that made his teeth ache and his skin crawl with invisible static. The lights flickered, and the tower creaked, as if answering. Day 27. He stopped logging, stopped eating. The fog crept closer every day. It now reached the second-floor windows. His reflection no longer matched his face. He avoided mirrors. Day 31. Something changed in the air pressure. The tower felt too quiet, like the atmosphere had thickened. The silence was no longer peaceful. It was oppressive, alive. That night, the feed went black. Every camera. He climbed to the roof with a manual scope. The altar was gone. The ridge was empty. Too empty. As if something massive had moved through and taken everything with it, including the ground. A portion of the cliff had collapsed, now forming a path downward into the mist. And something was calling. Day 34. A second tower came into view. Impossible. No such structure was marked on his maps, but it was there, 10 kilometers east, along the New Ridge path. And through the scope, he saw a man standing at its window, staring directly at him, wearing his clothes, smiling with his face. Day 36. The radio crackled, Central's voice, emotionless. End of cycle approaching. Prepare for extraction. Relief hit him like lightning. He shouted into the mic, "Send the drone! I'm ready. I'm ready to leave." Static. Then a pause. Then, "We're not sending a drone. You're already gone." Day 38. They came into the tower. Not loudly, not violently. Just appeared, dripping mist, dragging their limbs across steel floors, leaving no marks. They stood in a circle around his bed, watching. Then one spoke. "You watched long enough. Now it's our turn." And Marlene felt himself step out of himself, leave something behind. A body, a name, a task. Day 90. The new watcher arrived. Quiet, eager. He asked Central what he was supposed to monitor. They told him the same thing. It's just weather. As the drone lifted away, the fog below pulsed faintly. And deep in the stone, something ancient and patient exhaled.